Pensaste que en esta vida tú no me tenés.
Death Note was an anime based on the manga with the same name that was released in 2006. Even today, 14 years later, it is still regarded as one of the best animes with a 9 out of 10 rating on IMDb and is a staple for everyone beginning to watch anime. The story's premise is interesting: a notebook that can kill the people whose names are written in it, and the score and visual symbolism eloquently aid the plotline as though you were reading a book. If I had to teach an English class with anime, this would be one of the first ones I would go to. However, the thing probably most pulling people into the show is its main character, Light Yagami, and his psychology. It's refreshing to have a series where the protagonist is also the villain, and it gives us plenty of chances to explore the inner workings of this genius's mind.
I can act like it.
Thank you so much. I'll try my hardest to make you love me. I promise.
I'll arrange for her to meet Elle. She'll tell me his name, and then I eliminate the entire task force. And when that's done, I'll kill her too.
Perhaps fitting with his sinister role in the story, Light Yagami is a prime example of someone containing what is called a dark triad of traits, which are Machiavellism, narcissism, and psychopathy. The term dark triad was coined in 2002 by Delroy L. Paulhus and Kevin M. Williams, who looked at common malevolent traits in people. A combination of these traits tend to lead towards quote-unquote evil people. The first thing we'll be tackling is his Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism is a personality trait that involves manipulation and deceit. Machiavellians are cold, calculating people who are willing to lie and cheat in order to achieve their goals. Light Yagami, of course, fits this criteria to a T. He hardly shows any unwillingness to harm people either emotionally or physically in order to achieve what he wants. However, I believe this is most clearly shown in his relationship with Misa Amane. When she offers herself up freely to him, he smiles about the fact that he will get the chance to emotionally manipulate her into getting what he wants, and has no problem disposing of her if Rem hadn't got in the way. Light doesn't view others as humans, but as tools he can use to further his own gain. He emotionally manipulates Koda into going along with his plans and killing Milo. He lies to her and tells her that she will be the goddess of the new world and rule alongside him. However, the second she is no longer useful to his aims, he tosses her aside and kills her. He also lies to Misa Amane when he tells her to go back to working as Kira so that she could get caught and Rem would have to kill herself and Ryuzaki in order to save Misa.
Damn him. This wasn't just about gauging my deductive reasoning skills. He wanted to see what my reaction would be.
Machiavellians also tend to have a sort of cold empathy. This kind of empathy allows Machiavellians to understand how people are thinking, but not how they feel. Light spends a lot of the show discussing in his head the thoughts that could be going on through other characters' heads, most evidently with his exploration in the thoughts of Elle. But he doesn't spend much time thinking about them emotionally. Everything in his world fits into a rational box that he can control to his will, further solidifying his Machiavellian persona. People who have Machiavellian traits also tend to believe that the ends justify the means. Through his work as Kira, Light kills thousands of people in order to create what he believes will be a better world. While most people would find that repulsive, he views it as justice. His deep-rooted sense of right and wrong fits in nicely with Machiavellian worldviews of how things should be.
People who have committed serious crimes will die of heart attacks. Soon, even an idiot will notice that someone's killing criminals. I want the world to know of my existence.
The second part of the dark triad we are going to be looking at is narcissism. Narcissism is a personality disorder in which people have an inflated sense of self-worth and can also come with a lack of empathy towards others. People with narcissistic personality disorder require admiration and attention. They believe they are superior and can only associate with equally special people. They also behave in an arrogant or haughty manner to show their superiority and greatness. All these symptoms are expressed in Light Yagami throughout the show. The first is his inflated sense of self-importance. Though from the audience perspective, it may look as though Light is actually as important and special as he seems to think he is. That simply isn't the case. Despite Ryuk telling Light that he simply got lucky by touching the book and that he wasn't chosen, a part of him refuses to believe it. He thinks he was given the book because he was the smartest and that he was the only one who had what it took to do what needed to be done. However, the ending of the show makes it clear that he wasn't the chosen one, he wasn't special, he just couldn't view reality for what it was. The second sign that Light clearly displays is his desire for adoration and appreciation. This is clear through him taking up the mantle of Kira. If he was only doing what he thought was right, because he thought it was right, he wouldn't need to draw attention to himself. Ryuk even asks him why he has made them all die of heart attacks instead of some other form of death, to which Light replies by saying he wants people to know he exists. He isn't just after justice, no matter what his psyche tells him. He wants recognition and fame. The third thing Light does throughout the show is believing he is superior and only associating with people who share his greatness. As mentioned before, he looks down on people. This is shown in the show by the way Light and L are placed on pillars high above the rest of the world when they are discussing each other's thoughts. In Light's mind, and possibly L's too, but that's for a different video, the two of them are in fact above everybody else due to their intelligence. The last thing we are going to look at in Light's narcissism is his arrogance. His arrogance was indeed his downfall at the end of the series, and is perhaps the most prime example of his cockiness, for example when he calls Nier a far inferior L, thinking that he has won when in reality he has lost. However, I choose to ignore that Light ever existed, and instead we are going to look at how Light in his prime chose to show off his arrogance. While this Light was much more discreet when he chose his ego to appear, it is clear that sometimes he couldn't control it. For example, right before the infamous potato chip scene, Light taunts L through the camera by essentially telling him he knows about his plan. This move is entirely unnecessary and draws more unwanted suspicion onto him. However, his arrogance won't let him get away from not taunting his opponent as he's about to win a battle, despite the war being far from over.
Yes.
If I was happy, would that make you happy too?
Yes.
Then could you ask Rem to kill L?
The third thing we're going to talk about is psychopathy. Psychopathy is a condition marked by lack of empathy towards others. Sociopaths often seem normal, even charming. For example, Ted Bundy. Light was well liked by his peers. He wasn't seen as abnormal or weird. In fact, he was quite popular, especially with the ladies. However, psychopaths are marked with traits that we can use to identify Light as one. One of these traits is their need for simulation or an end to their boredom. While people tend to think of the bored one in the series being Ryuk, Light has the exact same motive. When Ryuk asks Light why he's doing all this, he responds, "I've been bored too." Most people at the age of around 18 aren't already bored with life. However, Light in such a desperate need for stimulation that he finds regular life to be boring and instead opts for mass murdering. The second trait is that they are cunning and manipulative. Light does not get enough credit for the amount of people he is able to manipulate in the show. People tend to think of Misa as the only victim to his tactics, but he manipulated the whole task force, and in a way, he was even able to manipulate and deceive L, although he was not as successful as perhaps he was with the rest of them. The third trait is failure to accept responsibility for one's own actions. After Light's final battle with Nier, he refuses to give in and accept his fate. He still doesn't see anything wrong with his actions, and he laughs maniacally. His perseverance is able to shed through his more calculating Machiavellianism, and he goes crazy. He continues to try to fight back and believes he is still going to save the world, so he runs. The last trait we are going to look for in Light's example of sociopathy is a lack of empathy. Light seems to lack any emotions. As soon as he is set on his path, Light becomes callous and unfeeling towards others. However, the most dramatic shift is in the way he treats his family. Even people with poor empathy still love their family and relate to their struggles. However, Light is completely lacking in this ability to connect with even how they are feeling. When his father thinks of giving Milo the death note, Light considers killing his own sister. While he does have enough emotions not to go through with it, his heart is so lacking that he considers it as a genuine possibility, and it only gets worse from there. He allowed his father to make a deal for the Shinigami Eyes with a plan of murdering him in 13 days, and he is relieved when he doesn't have to because he is going to die before that. Light can't even feel pain or remorse over the man who gave birth to him and raised him. When Light's father is dying, he doesn't feel anguish. He simply is calm and calculating, thinking of the best way he can use the situation to his advantage.
Then, and only then, the world will start moving in the right direction. A new world, free of injustice and populated by people who I've judged to be honest, kind, and hardworking. And I will become the god of this new world.
Fitting in nicely with his dark triad and going along with his incredible narcissism is his god complex. While I'm sure simply repeating his famous phrase, "I will be the god of the new world," should be enough to convince you, we're going to go a little bit more in depth as to what it means to have a god complex. A god complex is a personality flaw where people view themselves as omnipotent. Though not classified as a mental disorder, people still recognize it as the thing. People with God complexes look down on people. They also appear to have high self-esteem and view themselves as personified perfection. The attitude in Light is extremely conspicuous. He clearly views humans as being lesser, considering the fact he uses their lives like toys and thinks he can rule over them. He also believes himself to be perfect, which, to his credit, he kinda is. People with God complex also need to influence others and are addicted to power. Kira wants to be important. He wants people to be afraid of him, and he wants to have power over him.